We always do like to offer a little heads up before we jump into a PG-13 topic, so you can push pause and send those cute little ears out of the room. My next guest hears from couples all the time who think that in a healthy marriage, sexual intimacy should be easy, that it should just come naturally. But Studio 5 contributor Dr. Liz Hale says it's just not true. In fact, she says sexual avoidance happens to many couples over a lifetime together. Great to see you, Liz.
Nice seeing you.
Always bringing the juicy topics in the most appropriate ways, so thank you for that. You see the topic of sex can be both complicated and also really confusing for couples.
Oh my goodness. I mean, life and love just throws us some curveballs, right? From aging and babies and illness and stress, that sexual intimacy can be rather complicated. And, you know, I was just talking as I was writing this very script, I got a phone call from a woman who's been married 26 years, she and her husband. And from the get-go, from day one, sex has been difficult. And so that's almost 3 decades to be really miserable. They're so miserable that actually they're on the brink of divorce when everything else is relatively pretty good.
And that's the catalyst.
A nice family.
That's the catalyst, is the topic of intimacy.
It's a misunderstanding. There is so much loss and grief around sexuality in marriage therapy. It just breaks my heart. There's a lot of cross wires. And she said something too that was kind of cute. She goes, you know, I'm just not that drawn to the male anatomy. You know, and so I just lightened the mood a little bit. You'll probably have to edit this out, but I said, you know, we don't have to make peace with all the penises in the world, just one, just one. And she laughed, because we do need to lighten up just a little bit, because it gets to be so heavy. And the greatest organ to sex, of course, is what we're thinking about.
So that levity can serve you. You do want couples who may be struggling with this topic of sexual intimacy to know they're not alone. Oh
my goodness, you know, the numbers are rather high. This has been almost a dozen years ago. 15 to 20% of couples are in a sexless marriage. And I guess that can work if both of you are in agreement, but typically one of you is high desire and one is low desire.
Do you think that number is accurate?
I think it could be that or higher.
Really?
Quite honestly.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
And then there's a majority of couples who are saying sex is really infrequent. And again, that can be a problem or not, depending on if you're both on the same page.
Well, this phrase sexual avoidance is new to my ears. You're going to teach us about this cycle, the sexual avoidance cycle.
Yeah, I love this graph. It's courtesy of Jessa Zimmerman, who is a sex therapist. But just look at this here. So sex feels disappointing, right?
Yes.
Leaving a couple feeling worse than when they started. And that's not what sex is all about.
And then you say more disappointment just piles on.
Yeah, exactly, right? Naturally, we want to avoid things that bring us anxiety and upset.
And from disappointment grows pressure.
Just the avoidance itself, right? The elephant in the bedroom only makes it worse. Some of the pressure comes from, gosh, we should be having sex. Everyone else is having more sex than we are. Or my husband or partner is unhappy. Or there's so much pressure on the sex that we are having because we're not having it very regularly. So disappointment, avoidance, pressure, rinse and repeat. You
can see, that's a very illustrative graph, because you can see how it would just loop.
Yeah,
it would just loop. And that's when it gets hard and heavy and complicated.
We need a new loop.
Yeah, we need a new loop.
That's all.
You say a couple can escape the avoidance cycle by taking this stress out of sex in 3 steps, starting with a challenge of expectation.
Yeah, you know, again, that cross-wiring is really alive and well. So much of what we were taught, Brooke, has been inaccurate and misguided. So we really need to study some better books on science, on the body. Find someone that you really like Jessa Zimmerman, that you can follow, somebody who speaks to your heart as a couple and to your values. Broaden your definition of sex. You know, I love that she often talks about sex as kind of like a playground. You show up and you just have fun with no expectation of the outcome. You know, I often say here is say no to just the O. That's not what we're going for. We're going for connection and closeness.
It's interesting as you talk about expectation and you lightly kind of loosely reference, well, other couples are having, you know, more sexual experience or intimacy or pleasure than we are. I find myself wondering if, like, the girlfriend chatter, that sometimes when you're let down in front of a good girlfriend, which we all need, if that like helps or fuels in the wrong direction as you're kind of trying to seek support. So I guess what I'm saying is I appreciate your recommendation to seek out expert advice and expert help.
Yeah, and I think girlfriends can be, you know, the key to a happy marriage. I think think we need our girlfriends, especially when we're all kind of like-minded, going the same direction of really wanting to bring our best selves to marriage.
Yes, yes. From expectations, the next step to alleviate this stress in sex is to approach your partner, but don't avoid it.
Right, right. You know, and just to be honest, you know, I really want the best from myself and the best in our marriage. To be very positive about that. Own your side of the bed. Talk about the side that you bring that's anxious and pressure-filled. That vulnerability is really what draws us to each other and makes us feel closer.
And the goal with these first 2 steps, I think, would lead us to the third one, which is to eliminate the pressure. Try to lift that pressure and go to that levity that you talked about.
You know, I'm really a fan of regular connection time. Show up. Be present, be interested, have sexual touch or non-sexual touch, conversation, and again, let go of the end result. It's all about being together. I think when you let go of the expectation of what should happen, you can reinvigorate your sex life.
There it is.
That's fun, yes.
There it is. Liz, thank you. Thank you so much.
It's been such an honor.
You're so passionate about strengthening marriages, strengthening couples. You do that for us here. And you also, I think viewers would love to know, you have a podcast.
Dave Schramm and I do, Stronger Marriage Connection. It's available on all podcast platforms.
Stronger Marriage Connection.
Stronger Marriage Connection.
Give it a follow, give it a listen. We'll link you over from our website. Thanks again, Lizzie.
Thank you.
Great discussion.
Thank you.